Number 10. Early childhood trauma. Childhood is a formative period, and for many serial killers, it is marred by severe trauma. Abuse, neglect, and abandonment during these crucial years often leave deep emotional scars. Serial killers like Aileen Wuornos and Edmund Kemper experienced horrific childhoods, with physical abuse and unstable family environments contributing to their later violent tendencies. The lack of a stable, nurturing environment can lead to the development of antisocial behaviors and a profound distrust of others, laying the groundwork for future acts of violence. Studies have shown that many serial killers experienced some form of abuse during their formative years, be it physical, emotional, or sexual. This abuse can warp their view of the world, leading them to view others with hostility and as objects for their gratification. The trauma experience can manifest as a deep-seated rage and a desire for control, which they later express through their heinous crimes. Number 9. The need for power and control. For many serial killers, the act of murder is less about the act itself and more about the power they exert over their victims. This need for dominance can stem from feelings of powerlessness or inadequacy in other areas of their lives. By controlling the life and death of their victims, they feel a sense of power and superiority that they otherwise lack. Serial killers such as Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy exemplify this drive. Both men led double lives, presenting a facade of normalcy while committing horrific acts in private. Their crimes were not just about killing, they were about asserting dominance and control over their victims, often through methods of torture and psychological manipulation. This need for power can be traced back to feelings of inferiority or inadequacy, which they compensate for through their violent actions. Number 8. A desire for attention and notoriety. Serial killers often crave attention and notoriety, relishing the media coverage and public fear their crimes generate. For some, the thrill of the hunt is only matched by the thrill of recognition. This is particularly true for killers like the Zodiac killer and the BTK killer, who taunted police and the public with letters, cryptic messages, and clues about their crimes. This desire for fame can be linked to deep-seated narcissism and a craving for validation. Many serial killers view themselves as superior to others and believe that their actions will immortalize them in history. The media often plays into this by sensationalizing their crimes, further feeding their egos and driving them to continue their killing sprees. Number 7. Psychopathy and antisocial personality disorder. Psychopathy is a common trait among serial killers, characterized by a lack of empathy, remorse, and a disregard for the rights of others. Individuals with antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, often exhibit these traits, making them more likely to engage in criminal behavior. Unlike other mental illnesses, psychopathy is not characterized by a break from reality, meaning that serial killers with this disorder are often fully aware of their actions and the consequences. Psychopaths like Ted Bundy and Richard Ramirez showed little to no remorse for their actions, often viewing their victims as mere objects to be manipulated or destroyed. Their lack of empathy allows them to commit atrocities without the burden of guilt or shame. This, combined with a superficial charm and intelligence, makes them especially dangerous, as they can blend into society with ease. Number 6. Sexual sadism and paraphilic disorders. For some serial killers, the act of murder is intertwined with sexual gratification. This can manifest as sexual sadism, where the individual derives pleasure from inflicting pain and suffering on others. This was evident in the cases of Jeffrey Dahmer and Albert Fish, who not only killed their victims but also engaged in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. Paraphilic disorders such as necrophilia and voyeurism are often present in these individuals, driving them to commit acts that satisfy their deviant sexual desires. These disorders can be deeply ingrained, often developing during adolescence and becoming more extreme over time. The combination of sexual arousal and the power they feel over their victims creates a cycle of violence that can be difficult to break. If you found this breakdown of what drives serial killers fascinating, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out our other video on the dark side of human nature, link in the description. Number 5. Environmental and social influences. While genetics and psychology play significant roles in the development of a serial killer, environmental and social factors cannot be ignored. Poverty, lack of education, and exposure to violence during childhood can all contribute to the development of criminal behavior. Additionally, the social environment in which a person is raised can shape their attitudes toward violence and crime. For example, serial killers who grew up in violent households or crime-ridden neighborhoods are more likely to normalize violence and view it as a means to achieve their goals. This environment can also reinforce feelings of powerlessness and rage, which they later express through their crimes. The combination of a violent upbringing and a lack of positive role models can set the stage for a life of crime. Number 4. The thrill of the hunt. For some serial killers, the act of murder is akin to a sport. They experience a rush of adrenaline from stalking, capturing, and killing their victims. This thrill-seeking behavior is often linked to an addiction to the adrenaline and dopamine released during these activities. Killers like David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, and Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, enjoyed the process of planning and executing their crimes, often viewing their victims as prey. This predatory behavior is driven by a desire for excitement and a need to feel alive, which they can only achieve through acts of extreme violence. The more they kill, the greater the thrill, leading to a cycle of escalating violence. Number 3. The need to fulfill a fantasy. Many serial killers are driven by deeply ingrained fantasies that they feel compelled to fulfill. These fantasies often involve violence, domination, and control, and can become more elaborate and intense over time. For killers like Ed Gein and Jeffrey Dahmer, their crimes were the physical manifestations of long-held fantasies. These fantasies often develop during childhood or adolescence and become a central part of the individual's identity. The need to act out these fantasies can become overwhelming, driving them to commit heinous acts in order to achieve the gratification they seek. The more they indulge in these fantasies, the more detached they become from reality, leading to increasingly violent and bizarre behavior. Number 2. A lack of empathy and remorse. One of the most disturbing traits of serial killers is their complete lack of empathy and remorse. This allows them to commit acts of extreme violence without any feelings of guilt or shame. Many serial killers view their victims as objects rather than human beings, making it easier for them to commit murder. This lack of empathy is often accompanied by a cold, calculating demeanor, which allows them to plan and execute their crimes with precision. Serial killers like Ted Bundy and Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, were able to kill dozens of people without showing any signs of remorse, often going to great lengths to cover their tracks and avoid capture. Number 1. A deep-seated need for revenge. At the core of many serial killers' motivations is a deep-seated need for revenge. This can stem from feelings of inadequacy, humiliation, or betrayal experienced during childhood or later in life. For some, their crimes are an attempt to get back at society or specific individuals who they feel wronged them. Serial killers like Aileen Wuornos and Richard Ramirez harbored intense feelings of anger and resentment, which they expressed through their violent actions. Their murders were not just about power or control, but also about exacting revenge on those they perceived as enemies. This need for revenge can become all-consuming, driving them to commit increasingly brutal and sadistic crimes. Understanding what drives serial killers is a complex and often disturbing endeavor. While no two serial killers are exactly alike, many share common psychological traits and environmental influences that shape their behavior. From childhood trauma to a need for power and control, the motivations behind their crimes are as varied as they are terrifying. Before you go, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on our latest videos. And if you're intrigued by the psychology behind criminal behavior, you won't want to miss our next video, so stay tuned.